A new analysis of Bitcoin, we have this very impressive move and very surprising move. Of course, Bitcoin never fails to surprise. Nonetheless, what we were seeing here was a very controlled consolidation and pullback. And then we had this quite explosive move. I mean, explosive is an exaggeration, but we had a powerful move down here from this clear support level. I wanted to short it, but I wasn't there in time. When I saw it touching this sort of 1, 2, 3, 4 times on the hourly, I thought, yeah, well, next time probably going to break quite aggressively. It did, but then the interesting thing, and it broke down with volume as well. Then we had an inside bar, an absolute explosion upwards of this bar, just taking out the previous bar, almost double the size of the previous bar. And then a slight pullback with the wick, and then not only that, but the real incredible thing was that we smashed through the top side of this pullback pattern. Now, of course, technically the line of resistance would have been there, and but really the point is that not only did we break bullish from this point, but we also broke out of what would likely have created some sort of resistance to up around this level. And the other interesting thing to note here is that this 100 moving average for the, I think this is an EMA actually, that's right, 100 EMA on the hourly. Now we found resistance over here with a long wick, brought us down, 2 more wicks brought us down again, and then we came right down below the 50 and the 20 moving average. But now we have a 1-hour candle closing with volume above the, well, it hasn't closed yet. We have another 20 minutes to go. But it's safe to assume that this candle will close above the 100 moving average. And again, it's not, this alone wouldn't mean that much, just closing above the 100 moving average. We also want to come back down and test it and move up, and we want to have several candles closing above to really have, for that to show any significance. But when you combine that with this this increase in volume here of these past 3 candles, the fact that we broke through this potential resistance up here, and also with the fact that this resistance up here at the 7387 has been tested multiple times now, I think that it's very likely that the bulls will break this and move to the upside. And another reason I think this is that if you look at the price action when we come towards this resistance, let's do a quick analysis of it. So on the 1 hour here, we see the first test, inside bar, breaking down from it. Then we had lower high, lower low, so we were clearly getting away from it. The second one, we had an even clearer resistance. We had a lot of consolidation, a lot of bulls and bears fighting it out for a long time there. Resisted, came down for a lower low, had a lower high, and then just absolutely crashed down like hell. But then, similar to this move that we saw just now, is this move over here, right? Where we had, a very very strong move down, taking out previous major lows, and coming with volume, and then just exploding right back for a V-shaped reversal. And then we came again and tested this line. Okay, what happened this time? Okay, we had a long wick coming up. We didn't really have much action towards that at that level. Came down for a low, lower high, lower low, very similar to here, lower high, and then again a lower low. And now, boom, we come and test it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th time. So I think it's safe to assume that the 6th time we get there, the sellers are going to be full out of steam and the buyers are going to be taking on full control. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that we are going to get there, but it does mean that if we do, the bears are just gonna be blindsided because they have no steam left, they have no power. The bulls are showing that they want to destroy this resistance, and they most likely will if they get there again. Now, this raises the question, do we want to long now? And if we do, what are we targeting? Right, so for that, let's, first of all, we have this, well, first, the other thing is, where do you create the stop loss, right? So I think realistically, what we're saying is, if all we're saying is, oh, well, we want to test this resistance, and we think that we're very likely to come up to test it again soon, then we might want to say, okay, well, we don't want to be in this trade too long. Like if this drags out till there, and we're sort of trading within this whole range over here, then it might be too much. It might be unrealistic to assume that we're going to break it, or the risk might be too high. But if we say, okay, well, we don't because of this powerful move up, and because we've tested it so many times, and the bears are running out of steam. Because of that, we think that it's unlikely, or the failure test is to break this previous low at 6,850. So we put our stop loss there. And then what is a one-to-one extension of this? Let's have a look. If we look at do a one-to-one extension of this move, we have a target up there, which aligns very nicely with the previous. I think this is a 4-hour or even a daily high. Actually, let's go to the 12-hour. Let's go to the daily and see where that comes up. So here on the daily, you can see very clearly also how we're testing this level multiple times. Now on the daily, this doesn't really tell us much. On the 12-hour, doesn't tell us much either. So it's really more of a 4-hour high. And even this, it's only, yeah, I mean, you can see that we had some price action at this level. We resisted and came back down. So it will be interesting to see what happens when we come up there again. It's a one-to-one extension. It's a previous sort of major, not major, but minor high, local high, I would call it. And so I think it's very reasonable to assume that if we break this 7,300, that we come up to there. Okay, we might find a small test at 7,500 or the previous low, but I don't think this is this. I'm going to take this out. I just don't think it's that relevant as a potential resistance. But this line maybe is a little bit more relevant. And as I say, the confluence is actually, there's a lot of confluence now for this resistance. One is that this is a one-to-one extension of this previous move. Two is that it's the previous notable high. It isn't that notable, but let's just say it's somewhat notable high. And three, of course, is that we have, if we zoom out, we have this resistance line over here from a long time ago. This one, okay? So we had resistance, resistance, resistance. We broke through it, found support, grinded on it, came back down, and actually, if I get this out of the way, you will see that we grinded on this as support, broke it. So now we might expect this to create some sort of resistance. We might. And so, as I say, in combination, these three small factors combined together would make this a notable target. Now, the problem is that although we might be very confident that the bears run out of steam over here, we can't say for sure that the bears are going to have, the bulls are going to have a lot of steam to push all the way up there. All we can say is that there's a very high likelihood that if we cross 7,400, that we will go to at least 7,550 or so. So if we're being conservative, really, we would want to say 7,550. And here we would have to be right, wow, 0.75 to 1. I'm not sure exactly, but it's obviously more than 50%, about 65% of the time, which is not that attractive. I'm going to put it somewhere in between there, just to be safe. In other words, I might take some profit around this level, and then some a little bit higher. And then the other thing to do is to look at the lower time frames, right? So we go to the 15-minute now, and you can see also here very clearly what this is doing. We have this big move up here, breaking all the previous moving averages, even the 200 over here. So we might expect a touchdown over here at the 7,100 zone, and that would actually be a good entry point because we have the volume profile here, especially if we look at the more recent price action. Then you can see that it's sort of this zone over here. Oh yeah, and talking about these zones, we can just briefly mention why. Oops, let's make this a bit darker so we can see it. A little bit less dark. This previous zone was the support zone that I was looking at, and the top of it was the 618 fib, and the bottom was the 0.786 fib. So between the golden zone and the 786 is usually a good point to buy back in if you're expecting a second wave up. I did actually get some small buys in this area, so I'm pretty happy about that. But now what I'm thinking is, okay, well, what does this mean now? Like where can I create my stop loss? And I'm thinking now actually that I'm tempted to ladder in. I think it doesn't make sense to buy just as yet because the stop loss really, I would feel, I mean, I might put my stop loss here, but really, realistically, I think you want to put your stop loss lower in these trades because you want to get a good risk to reward of at least 2 to 1. And so if I were to enter here, I'm still not sure that I actually want to. We have a couple inside, well, this is one inside bar. The bull from there, the bears broke it through, are pushing back up. Really not much to be said on the 15-minute time frame, other than that we are moving with a very clear move upwards. You'll probably see on the MACD that we have, yes, a new high, just destroying previous highs. We might even see this on the hourly, actually. No, the hourly is nowhere near. So that's it's good to zoom out a little bit just to get some perspective. But nonetheless, the hourly now is almost finishing. 11 minutes to go. It's increasing bullish volume, just absolutely destroying this. It's very, very notable move. But of course, there's a lot of volatility now, and what might happen, we might get some nasty wick coming all the way down here, or coming to test the previous support, taking out our stop loss down here. So if I were to enter this trade, I would have a stop loss here, but I'd probably stop out of 50 or 60, let's say 75% of the position here, and then 25% of it here, just so that I can still take advantage of the big move up in case I do get stopped out over here. So in that case, my stop would average out approximately over here, and then my risk reward would be about 1.6 to 1. Not ideal for me. So really what I'm looking for is to get somewhere in this blue zone where I can have a more attractive risk to reward. And so let's just place that over here, and I'm gonna and then the stop loss would be there. We go to the 15-minute time frame to see where that volume profile was, which coincides with this whole slew of moving averages. It's going to be about here, right? And we can also do a quick fib analysis of this of this move up to see where we're likely to potentially hit. So I would say somewhere between the 382 and the 618, anywhere, even between the 786. Although I really wouldn't want it to see it go down there for a bullish move up. I don't want it to come down quite this low. So and if we go within this box, then the fib the risk reward is going to be much healthier. So let's say we average in the middle of this box. We have laddered buys within this zone. Stop out here, and here we have a 5 to 1, which is ridiculous. So that's really where I'm targeting. I may make some buys as we come down towards this line here, although I don't want to highlight this because I don't think it's that relevant. The top line of this diagonal, of this parallel channel. Let's get rid of some things here to make it a little bit clearer. Whoops. So get rid of this. I don't think that this parallel channel, the actual lines at the top are super relevant. I think it's more just the general price action was within this general range. And I think that actually this level is important, and so is this one. At the bottom of this box, you can see there's a lot of price action within this range. So what we want to do ideally is come down there, bounce off of it, and push right back up again. So yeah, in conclusion, I'm not going to get overexcited and enter now. I have a good chance of coming back down to this level and having a much more attractive risk to reward. And I'm going to have my stop loss, 75% of it over here, and maybe even just a little bit lower. 75% here, 25% here. So that's going to make move this down a little bit. Still 3.7 to 1. And again, we're going to take some profit over here in this region, 7,580, and some profit 7,730. But that's just for this trade. Of course, the bigger picture, I've looked at this, talked about this in a previous video, is that there is a non-negligible possibility, a real chance, at least a 25% probability, I think, that this is the absolute bottom. 25% is about the maximum I can give it. There's not enough evidence to suggest that we're bouncing up from this zone just yet. But I think that it's a very interesting point to look. We have the 618 fib. We have the bottom of this pullback here. We have the of this diagonal here in the parallel channel. We have this support line coming from, well, many months ago. We had a volume profile over here, which is getting pretty high. Okay, so some support. We have a lot of price action here in this general zone, indicating that this is an important point to bounce from if we are going to see another big move up. And if I'm not mistaken, the weekly 200 moving average also touches down here. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm talking about the weekly 50 and the 100 sort of converge at this level. You see it more clearly on Bitfinex. And I was saying before how if we bounce from here and go up, right now it might look like we broke those moving averages, but really you shouldn't look at levels too specifically for the most part. It's better to look at it more of a zone. And if you look at this zone, this is the zone where the 50 and the 100 coincide. And it just seems more than likely that we will bounce, that this must provide some sort of support. And if we actually look at the weekly chart on Bitfinex, then we might see something interesting with the 200 moving average. Let's have a look. Oh, this is EOS. Let's just go to, I think it's over here. No, 1 second. Here it is. So US dollar index BitMEX, S&P, or Bitstamp. It's going to be all the same thing, really. Oh, we don't have the moving average here. No big deal. But anyway, the point is that there's confluence here. Oh yeah, the 200 I remember now. The 200 is a little bit lower. I think it's around the 5.5K region. But yeah, all in conclusion is that there's a small chance that this is the absolute bottom, which is just immense, which is amazing. And even if it isn't, there is a very good chance that we will break this 7,400 zone, and that a good potential trade is coming up if we reach this zone. This is not financial advice, of course, but just my personal opinion. All right, that's it for me. Tuning out. Good luck trading.